take off, runway 08 and after noise abatement.
The height of summer. An Airbus A340 cleared for takeoff. Heading not for a holiday destination, but somewhere else. A journey that will span thousands of miles, 2 continents. A journey that begins with this.
I have got the biggest Shein haul ever.
I spotted this on the Temu website.
I'm getting like Snow White vibes in this dress. It comes with 4 cushions.
Just a nice little wooden stand.
Así por secciones.
And ends on your doorstep. As the way we spend and consume has transformed, from window shopping to one-click shopping, from glossy ad campaigns to online influencers,
I got some good stuff.
from weeks of container shipping to something else, something radically different. This is the inside story of a massive economic shift happening below the radar. Bournemouth Airport in the south of England.
60, 40, 30.
Unbeknownst to the holidaymakers flying from here, this place is also the main hub for a very interesting British company, European Cargo. It is one of the main beneficiaries of the craze for e-commerce. If you've bought something from Shein, Temu, TikTok or other Chinese commerce giants, there's a good chance it came over in one of these planes. But what does that mean in practice? For the first time, we've secured access inside the supply chain, bringing these goods into this country. So it's actually an old Virgin Atlantic Airbus A340, so you might have travelled in this yourself on your holidays, but now, as you can see, look, it's been completely converted, so there's the cockpit in here. You've still got a few vestiges of when it used to be a passenger plane, some of the seats, but back here, everything completely different. Just look at this. So you've got box after box that have come across from China, mostly clothing, e-commerce, ready to be sent off to homes around the country. This is something radically new. Up until a few years ago, if you wanted to send something cheap to the other side of the world, it would go in a shipping container. But now, this is how much of it comes over.
All these boxes were loaded, obviously, in China.
Chief Executive Jason Holt says his company is now the single biggest UK carrier of these kinds of items.
E-commerce has really kicked off probably from COVID. I mean, it was there before, but when we were all locked down, that's when e-commerce really started to motor. And you know, a lot of the manufacturers, the factories and manufacturers, particularly in the Far East, are now into that conversation where if they can send packages direct, so they're not putting it into large containers on a ship, they're putting individual packages for you and I for our home addresses, then as soon as it lands, it goes.
So that's what comes to your doorstep.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
And that's come straight from China.
Yeah,
Put into a box here.
that's it.
Then that goes into a van and towards someone's home.
And somebody in another van will drop it off at your doorstep with maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning.
That's someone in Wales.
Yeah,
That's Bridgend. Golly.
yeah.
So this is it. This is
So
the
it is.
front line of e-commerce. At this point, you're probably wondering, how do the sums add up? Why can Chinese producers send goods to the UK by plane and still outcompete domestic producers? Part of the answer is a clause in customs law, some would say a loophole, called de minimis.
So the de minimis duty threshold is a relief that's applied to imports that are of a low value. So in the UK, that's under £135, going from a business to a consumer. So this could be a small package you order off an online marketplace that comes from somewhere like China, the US or elsewhere. And one of the reasons for that is that the cost of collecting tariffs when bringing in loads of small parcels is potentially higher for government than the revenue they raise.
But in recent years, the value of this kind of trade has risen exponentially. Sky News has obtained the first official estimate of the scale of de minimis imports into the UK. According to government data requested under Freedom of Information legislation, inflows of these packages rose from £3.9 billion to £5.9 billion last fiscal year. That's an increase of 53% in a single year. Based on back-of-an-envelope sums, assuming a tariff rate of 20%, that's more than £1 billion worth of revenue the government isn't collecting. A tax break that helps Chinese firms sell their goods much cheaper into the UK. But elsewhere around the world, at least, there is a growing backlash against this trade.
It's the de minimis rule in tariffs. There's no tariff on it.
We're not doing that anymore.
America and the EU have moved to shut their de minimis loopholes. Donald Trump has already slapped taxes on Chinese e-commerce. Now the UK government has launched its own inquiry. And those trade flows, unprecedented last year, are still rising at an astonishing rate.
There's a huge demand. I mean, there's an enormous global demand. And if you talk to these organisations, and we have been to these organisations in China and elsewhere in the Far East, they will say the biggest restriction to their growth of their business is air freight, getting access to air freight.
It's this.
It's this.
It's this.
It's this.
And it's not just Bournemouth. In recent months, there have been new routes into Prestwick in Scotland, Cardiff Airport, and here at East Midlands Airport. E-commerce, it turns out, is a big deal for regional airports. This was already one of the country's biggest cargo hubs long before anyone had ever heard of Shein and Temu. But now carriers are queuing up to get landing slots. 6 new operators in the past few months alone. Saudi cargo firms, American cargo firms, even Ethiopian cargo firms, all flying the same route, a modern-day silk route, except made of polyester. Is there a knock-on consequence of obviously what's happening in the US with kind of tariffs and rules on trade from China? Are you seeing that, that here as well?
We have started to see probably an increase in the volume of goods coming directly from China into the UK because they're not flying between China and the US. So there is a direct knock-on effect there. We will also see that evolve, and these aircraft might only be operating here for a number of months, and then a new opportunity comes up in another part of the world.
In the meantime, Britain is the place everyone is flocking to with cheap goods. So between this plane here, this 777 that's come in from Hong Kong, and that 747, which is just about to take off, you're talking about getting on for 200 tons of cargo. That's a lot of e-commerce. It used to be the case that if you were flying freight, it would have to be really expensive. But we seem to have arranged the economy in a way that you can routinely send cheap items across in planes like this and that one over there. The only question, I guess, is whether that's permanent or it's going to come to an end. That might depend on whether the government does what Donald Trump and the EU have done and impose tariffs on those cheap goods, ending the de minimis loophole. But that's not simple either, because that means higher prices, especially for low-income households.
If you apply tariffs to all products valued at under £135, you would expect consumer prices to go up, but also consumer choice to go down. So there'd be a negative consumer shock in that sense.
Meanwhile, even as you watch this, there's a fleet of planes in the air flying this way from China, stacked with cheap clothes and trinkets we've ordered online. This new trade route is changing the economy. But is that for the better or the worse?